Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I want to call the November 5th, 2019 Board of Commissioners meeting to order. Please join me in the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will continue with the agenda review.
Mr. Chair, there are no changes to the agenda today.
Move to approve. Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is approved. Okay, we'll go to County Ditch 12 judicial transfer public hearing.
Morning.
Morning.
guys.
Okay, this is a public meeting. Welcome to the public hearing regarding the transfer of portions of Blue Earth County Ditch 12 to the City of Mankato. The purpose of this hearing is to consider the engineer's report and hear public comments regarding the transfer. We will start with judicial documents from Mr. Ryan Hineker, Drainage Management Specialist.
Good morning, thank you. The jurisdictional documents that we have today to read into the hearing are: the proof of mailing was sent out on October 23rd, 2019. The hearing notice was also published in the Mankato Free Press on October 28th of 2019, and we have a maintenance agreement that we are both hoping to sign with the City of Mankato and ourselves.
Okay, very good. Okay, we'll now hear from representatives of the City of Mankato and Chuck Brandel from ISG. Go ahead, Chuck.
I don't think anybody is here from the city.
Okay, I wondered that.
Chuck Brandel from ISG. We put together a report on the transfer. This is the second transfer of County Ditch 12. So the watershed itself is just under 1,500 acres. It lies within the City of Mankato and Mankato Township. The history is this ditch was constructed in the 1910s. There was an official transfer, cleaning into 2013, official transfer in 2016. There were more portions of repair in 2015. In 2018, we did another repair. So the entire ditch has been cleaned and maintained. There was a small section that wasn't cleaned during the Prairie Winds development. That was done this summer. So the red line is the watershed boundary. The blue line represents the public open ditch. And then the red line is 2,700 feet that we are proposing to transfer into the city. So zooming in, the purple lines represent the city limits. So the Prairie Winds or Cougar East development has extended to this point here, about 2,700 feet east of Trunk Highway 22, proposing to take that section over. The portion west of Prairie Winds Drive was cleaned this summer, so the entire section has been cleaned and maintained. There were 2 culverts that were put in as part of the Cougar East development. Those were not paid for by the ditch system. They were also sized to have more capacity than the ditch itself. So they have adequate capacity, and they were set at the legal ditch grade. So those culverts meet the requirements for the ditch system, and the ditch system has been cleaned. This picture here, we actually met with the Assistant City Engineer, Michael McCarty, and went over what needed to be done for kind of the city's approval for final takeover, meeting on site this summer. So the proposed conditions is to transfer 2,704 feet within the city limits to the City of Mankato. City will be responsible for maintenance, and all of the residents and businesses along the transferred open ditch can address maintenance concerns with city staff instead of the county drainage authority. And they are responsible to maintain that adequate outlet that's already there. So with that, we propose that you accept the transfer of the 2,700 feet to the City of Mankato.
Any questions for Chuck?
I don't have any at this point.
I don't.
I'll just add a quick one. Once this is totally transferred, then there's, it's all the city of Mankato, and we don't have any, can't suggest, like even cleaning out a ditch or anything like that, maintenance, it's all under there.
I think that's part of your maintenance agreement, that if there is a blockage, they need to go in and maintain it. And it's not paid for by the ditch system, it'll be paid for with city municipal funds.
Okay.
Do we have any power over that? I mean, if they're not cleaning out their ditch system, does the county have any? Because the water is running into the city,
Yeah,
towards the city, so if it's blocked inside the city limits, it's going to be blocked behind that into the county, correct?
yes, and you do have power a couple different ways. One is by, essentially, this is a city petition to take it over. So they're petitioning and saying they will maintain it. You also have the right to go a mile downstream and remove obstructions from any ditch system. And we don't have a mile of ditch yet that they've taken over. So that may become a point at some point, but right now you could
Well,
get.
that would be, yeah.
So you have two ways to do it. The first way would be what I would start out with, because that would be, the city would pay for that portion of it. If you could use ditch funds and go remove a blockage up to a mile downstream.
So if we use ditch funds to remove the blockage within the city of Mankato that's under their jurisdiction, can we be reimbursed by the city of Mankato for that?
That's what I would recommend you have set up in your maintenance agreement.
Okay.
I heard some concerns before the meeting from some of the folks in the audience about the trees or in the ditch that they haven't been removed and stuff. Do we have a plan for that?
Most of the trees along the ditch were removed that affected flow when we did the cleaning back in 2 years ago. Okay. So, but they should be maintained. That should be a maintenance issue with both the city and your portion of the ditch system to maintain the don't let the trees grow back in the ditch. Outside of the buffer, you don't really have any control, but within the buffer and the ditch system, you should do routine maintenance for that portion.
Yeah. Any other questions for Chuck? Okay, if not, I'll open the public comment portion of the meeting. Meeting's recorded, so please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and please limit your comments to about 3 minutes. Is there anyone that would like to speak to this issue? Go ahead.
Ken Wilmus, Mankato Township. If we're driving around checking out the ditches, which we do sometimes, and we see a problem or an issue in the ditch part that the city now owns, do we call them to get it cleaned or the county?
That was kind of my...
Yeah, my initial thought would be them, but Brian, do you have any concerns?
I'm fine with either way, I guess, personally. We have a decent working relationship, and it's easier for you to get a hold of one of us. I'm fine with being that communication link.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because you're still the ditch managers.
Correct. Yeah, so I'm completely fine with that. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I just
Good.
wanted to know who to call.
Yep.
Perfect. Well,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Ken.
Good morning. I'm Paul Scheuer, a non-county resident, but involved with management of some property on the ditch there. Boy, and most of my questions were already answered by you commissioners this morning. I always think it's always about money, and that was probably, who's going to pay for it if they don't do their duties. I think you should probably go ahead and make sure they pay for their portion, whatever has to be done down there. If I could express a personal opinion here about the past, as far as some of the other assessment stuff, I understand down there, let's call it on the downtown area of the ditch, west of County Road 12, that there was a lot of change there with the prairie winds, and as far as our assessment on that, we got assessed, we're on the east side of County 12, we got assessed $2,000 down there, and some of the participants in the maneuvers down there didn't have to pay a penny down there. And I think the problem there is the county probably had to do a lot of time there getting those changes made, and we had to pay for it, and the others didn't. And I guess it isn't my right to feel that I should be concerned somebody's got a little greener grass over there, but understand, I don't think the county got by without any expense in changing those things over. And I think some of those...
Thank you for your comments. I'm sorry, was there anything else?
No.
No, okay.
Thank you for
Yes.
having this hearing.
Great. Thank you very much.
You bet.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks, Paul.
Is there any other public comment? If there's no other public comment, I'll bring it back to the board for action.
Move to approve. Second it.
Okay, is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Okay,
Do we want to do the agreement right away, or were those both the same motion?
I think you should do a separate motion.
Separate.
We got one for the transfer, and
Yep.
do we want to do one for the agreement?
yeah, that would
Okay,
probably
I'll
should.
move the agreement.
I'll
Okay.
second it.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's approved. Okay, the County Ditch 12 jurisdictional transfer hearing is now closed. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
I believe you have some other drainage issues for us.
Yeah, we have actually 5 action items here. Dealing with the improvement for County Ditch 35 is the first 3 here. We have to appoint an engineer for the project, which we're going to appoint Chuck. So we have received a petition. It has been reviewed by Kurt Dieter. He finds it's adequate. So statute then requires us to appoint the engineer. So also there was a petition for a lateral. It's 2 separate orders, 2 separate deals, but it's part of the same process because there will be a lateral extension on 35. And we also order a redetermination of benefits. We've made it a practice to try to speed things along
Right.
at the same time. So
Okay,
Mr. Chair, can those be combined, or do they have to be separate?
as far as motions.
Separate.
So that's what I was
I'd do
thinking.
Mr. Chair, I'd
Separate.
recommend you do them
Separate.
separately.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with the first one.
that would be the actually appointing the engineer for the improvement.
Okay,
Move approval?
Second.
any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Second would be appointing the engineer for the lateral.
Okay,
So moved?
Second?
any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Next one would be the order, the redetermination of benefits for County Ditch 35.
okay,
I move approval?
Second.
okay, any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried, okay,
Then we go into another ditch here. This is County Ditch 16. This is adjacent to 35. In fact, what's going to happen here is if the petition goes through on 35, it's going to be switching some of the watershed from 16 into 35, the way the benefits are. Also, County Ditch 16, we're still going by the original 1907 benefits. So I would recommend, as part of this procedure, to do a redetermination in 16 also.
things might have changed a little bit in that.
They have.
Yeah, okay, do I have a motion?
I'll move that.
Second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
Carried.
And the last one here is we have an appointment of the engineer on lateral, for a lateral petition on 86.
Okay,
I'll move approval.
Second.
discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Very good.
Thank you.
We got a lot of done there, didn't we?
Thank you.
They'll all be coming back.
Yeah.
They'll be coming back to bite us really good sometime.
They won't all come back at the same time, no problem.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
Okay. Ryan,
Good morning, Commissioners. Good
Good
Ryan.
morning, Ryan.
Right.
congratulations on your award.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Fortunate enough to have two of my commissioners there and be presented the award by Commissioner Strumberg. It's
Oh, nice.
very kind words that I was very appreciative of, so it was really nice to be acknowledged.
I took pictures.
Oh,
Cut
good.
off their heads. Not all of them, though.
There was a really great shoulder down shot.
It is close to Halloween, so it's accepted.
Vance just looked at me and showed me the
We had
picture.
that new movie called The Headless Engineer.
So, okay. So, looks like you
right.
got a few things for us?
Yeah, not too stacked of an agenda, but a couple items to take care of. First order of business is a lighting agreement for the intersection lighting at Minnesota Highway 30 and our newly reconstructed County State Aid Highway 14. MnDOT would like to include this as part of their future Highway 30 reconstruction project. So they would cover the project management, the installation of the lights, and the construction costs associated with it. And in response, we become responsible for the maintenance and monthly electrical fees for the lights. So I certainly think that's a good intersection. I did review our county road safety plan, and that was one of the intersections identified as a good candidate for safety enhancements
perfect.
for lighting. So that is one of the tools that I look at when we are requested to light an intersection is our safety plan. And that was one of our higher up candidates, so I certainly was supportive of moving forward with it. So with that being said, I'd be happy to answer any questions on the agreement, and I would recommend approval of the agreement as it's provided.
I would move to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Any discussion?
It sounds like a wonderful plan. It's great that MnDOT's pushing for this, and it's a safety issue.
Absolutely.
Two important roads coming together there, and it's good to have it well lighted.
Yep.
You bet.
Especially that one, if you may recall, sits at a significant skew, and we didn't want to offset the intersection when we reconstructed, and we were trying to follow the road and keep the overall cost down. So it is a good safety enhancement, absolutely.
Good. So, any other discussion?
Nope.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay. Next action item on our list is approval of the 2019 bituminous overlays, including State Aid Project 07614-14 and several others, paving on CSAH 14, 4, 16, 52, and County Roads 163 and 179. As you see on the cover page of the final pay voucher, the revised contract amount, $1.954 million. The final payment amount, $95,926.84.
Okay. Have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? Thank you. If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
All right. And we've got some information items. Please provide your questions as we go. Construction projects updates. Things are coming along very well. Speaking with staff this morning, getting last minute updates on CSAH 1. The paving and striping was completed yesterday.
Oh, nice.
So
Good.
absolutely, we're rounding corner on so many of these. The shouldering is going down today, so the gravel shouldering. The guardrail and signs are scheduled for Thursday, with
Wow.
turf establishment kind of happening in parallel to the rest of that work. And we do have, weather pending, potential to open the road on Friday.
Wow.
If not, probably early next week. So,
Some people seem to think it's open already.
They do.
yeah, as soon as that
Not
black
me.
stuff goes down, they don't understand why it's not open to traffic yet.
You mean if we don't get 2 to 4 inches of snow tonight?
Well, there is that, yes, you're right. So that's the ultimate equalizer, isn't it?
I had some questions on County Road 1 south of County Road 90. And the depth of the ditch, and saying,
Yes.
and people were complaining that it was dangerous because the ditch is so deep now. I tried to explain to them that road is gonna be under major construction next year, but they were concerned about the safety
Sure,
aspects.
and
of
we'll take a
driving.
look in, I'm trying to think which area they're talking through
Well,
the
they're
surcharge
saying that
or-
there's some, it looks like the road is still gravel and.
Okay, so that'd be through the surcharge area.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll make sure
I
we've
tried
got
to
everything.
explain to them, but you know, it's, they're
I see it now.
they see it now and they don't understand. I
Yes.
said, you know, that road's gonna be straightened out, it's gonna be,
Correct.
you know, we're gonna have some major stuff done next year. Well, I just don't think that road's ever gonna get done. I says, no, trust me, it's in a,
Yeah,
It's
so as
in
you
a
may
process.
recall, the surcharge area going down the hill into the chute, that is considerably higher than the final grade will be because we put that extra soil on top to compress the soft underlying peat soils.
Feet, right? Several
Yes,
feet.
5 to 8 feet.
Yeah.
So the road itself, the elevation will come down and that'll take away some of the severity, but we'll make sure that we didn't have any unsafe inslopes. It is temporary. We do still have to get the final surcharge on the surcharge area 2, which is the new alignment piece at the bottom of the hill. I am keeping my fingers crossed that SHPO is supposed to respond to the Army Corps of Engineers. The Corps sent in early October a no adverse impact determination for the remainder of the scope of our project in that area after finding the artifacts. SHPO will either provide a response via a concurrence or expressing additional concerns. We are hopeful that it'll be their concurrence, and with that being said, then we can move forward with the rest of the surcharge number 2 next year, and then likely the reconstruction project in 2021.
is there any safety things we can do at this time while it's under construction that, I
So,
mean, people
yeah.
are gonna be driving down the road.
Right, so that's what I was saying, we will review it to make sure if they did express their concerns that there's nothing that is a safety deficiency,
I mean,
but I think just the
Can we
fact that
put,
it's
can
gravel
we
with
put a
slopes and
speed limit going down there at 30 miles an hour? or-
everything is posted with, I think that's still posted as road construction, so to also give people a sense of, you need to slow down and drive safer. So we'll definitely take a look before we open it back up to traffic because it will be in that state. But it's very similar to what we've done on other projects, almost identical. CASA 26 back in 2008 or 9 when we did the surcharge through there, we left a piece over the course of the winter as a surcharge gravel with the drop-offs, and the sides do get a little soft, but we do know it's temporary condition, so we'll certainly take a look at it.
Okay.
Yep.
I just wanted to bring that up.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So if SHPO comes back and says they have concerns, does it then go back to the Army Corps again, or what's the process?
Then, as I understand it, yes, then it goes back to the Army Corps, and we have to go over that, and unfortunately, with the time frame that each of those agencies has to make their responses to each other, it drags it out. Now that we've lost the window to get that surcharge on this year, you know, really, we're hoping that April or May start next year is probably realistic of getting the surcharge area on, and then with the workload we've got stacked up for 2020, I think talking with staff to put that reconstruction project to begin on the turnback project from 9 to 90 would be very excessive for our capabilities, knowing that we've already got 11 miles of grading planned and a large bridge and paving and several other probably smaller bridges going as well next year. We're continually busy, but that might be excessive to where we'd have to really farm out a large portion of that. So with the surcharge, coupled with acquiring the right of way and letting the surcharge sit, knowing that we don't maybe cause any undue liability to the county by letting a contract, and then if that surcharge takes longer than we think it does, then we may be in a precarious situation. So we want to give it a year to settle out.
How much did that set us back?
Time-wise?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had intended to put that surcharge on last year and then obviously begin the reconstruction project in 2020. And now for sure we've lost, obviously, knowing this was a 2-year project, that surcharge going into 2020, now we're not gonna be able to start the reconstruction until 2021. So 1.5 to 2 years. It's disturbing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We're dealing with two agencies that don't seem to move very fast.
Correct. You know, they have a large workload and all of these federal processes to follow. And obviously they did find artifacts that we were not anticipating. The value of those artifacts could be perhaps debated, but
But
Good.
all right.
Okay.
CSAH 14 from Minnesota Highway 30 to CSAH 4 was open to traffic on November 1st. There are still a few remaining signs, minor turf establishment, and a couple punch list items that they're going to be completing under traffic, but that's done, open to traffic. Nice project, as you saw in our road tour. We're very happy. That's a great model of that project where we can leave the majority of the existing road core in place and build off to the side, recycle the pavement. So it's economical. It's very, very good as far as scheduling goes, and it also provides good access and a construction platform throughout the project. The Rapidan Dam left abutment repairs. Work continues moving forward. It's a relatively slow process just because of limited workspace. There are 3 upper levels remaining on the wall, and the contractor should have that wrapped up by Thanksgiving. On the dam as a whole, we have had some conversations with Eagle Creek Renewable Energy. They had planned to make some of the repairs to the gates and some of the buttresses of the concrete that were damaged in the spring floods. However, because the flows have continued to remain high, they have concerns with worker safety. That work is going to be delayed until likely early next summer until flows subside a little bit. So the gates will be left up, and it'll flow as it will for the most part.
I can't believe how high the rivers are.
Yes.
A lot of water.
Crazy.
We did survey, and I think I discussed this with some of you. We did survey the downstream apron and the damages that occurred, and we do have a fairly large, at one point approximately 10-foot deep scour hole developed from that, passing that second largest flood ever, and that was on the freshly repaired apron. So we are looking at how can we fund a repair project again, and a little bit of back to the drawing board. Obviously the construction method, albeit very robust, the issue is that as that flow comes down the profile of the spillway, it actually creates an uplift pressure, kind of like a suction effect, and lifts up, and that's very difficult to combat there. So we'll be looking for an alternative solution.
Story there.
It certainly is, and it's deflating, to go in and do such a significant project that we did a good job on it, and it just obviously passing the second highest flows ever through the dam the subsequent spring. I kind of figured to think what would have happened had we not done those repairs. So. The Kern Bridge salvage project, the shipping containers that the bridge will be disassembled and put into have arrived. Those are at MnDOT's gravel pit where the bridge will be stored. And the contractor is still working on their structural engineering plans for the bridge pick and disassembly for submittal to us. So not much happening on that front right now. St. Clair, the new shop is done. The only thing I think that's on delay is one of the furnaces was damaged in shipping, so we have one heater but not both. But we're doing the final walkthrough today, actually at 3 p.m. at the shop, and we should be moving back in this week.
Nice.
So, great project, turned out very nice, and I appreciate your guys' support in that shop project.
Can I go back, Mr. Chair? The Kern Bridge, do we have a time frame as to when they're going to start taking it down? I think you told me, but I can't remember.
I think and I don't remember exactly, it was end of the year was our objective date. Really it's critical to get it off before next spring, before the flows get worse.
Yeah.
We had put an objective date in there, I think in December, for them to have it picked and disassembled, just to absolve us of some of the liability should it fail. But now most of that's on the contractor.
Is that that's something we might be able to see then?
Yep, I will certainly try to let everybody know in advance once we know when the date is.
Maybe cold.
It might, I'm guessing at this point it's going to be cold, and it might be a multi-day pick where they partially move it and then set it on a temporary and then reset. So it might not be when we pick the Dodd Ford or that railroad trestle or the Red Jacket.
I was talking to Rebecca from MnDOT. She's all excited about this. She really is. She's real interested.
And then the last project I didn't have on the agenda, but the CSAH 4 box culvert replacement, that's being paved in today as well. So that's just east of Highway 22, and we should reopen that to traffic into this week, early next week again, pending weather. So We're wrapping up our 2019 projects and we're looking out into the future. CSAH 10 from the Blue Earth River to CSAH 1. Right-of-way acquisition is nearly complete. We would anticipate bidding that in January once we wrap up those final parcels and submit the plans for approval, but that's in a good position. 27 from 17 to 2, the plans are at approximately 75%. We are working with SRF and MnDOT on wetland impacts and stormwater ponding at the northwest corner of 27 and Minnesota Highway 14, where we plan to put a regional stormwater pond to meet some of our runoff requirements. And we should begin landowner right-of-way meetings probably later this month, so beginning that process. So that'll be likely a later spring bid letting, depending how the right-of-way acquisitions go. There are a lot of parcels out there and a lot of drainage challenges that we have on that project, but we're still anticipating getting that out in 2020. 57 and Riverfront Drive roundabout interchange at US 14. We're still working with the project consultant Bolton and Mink, as well as our project team of the City of Mankato and MnDOT to get final geometric review before they can move into detailed design. So that's an iterative process as we look at the entry speeds of the roundabout, the geometry, the larger loads being able to move through there safely, and then also concerns about pedestrian safety. The 41 bridge replacement, we're working on archaeological surveys as the federal funds on this. In this circumstance, the MnDOT Cultural Resources Department does the archaeological surveys. So they did the phase 1. They found some, they would call it like a lithic flake. So like a piece of metal that had been flaked off from making an axe or a broadhead or some arrow or something like that. So they were going to do a phase 2 survey, which is the 3 foot by 3 foot by 3 foot hole and screening the materials in there. They were supposed to wrap that survey up this week, so we should know more in the coming weeks about if they found any additional items. If not, then we should move forward with permitting, but that's probably the one concern I have on that, but we're moving forward with the project memorandum as well as a project design to get that out next year.
Mr. Chair, so if they don't find anything, we don't have to go through SHPO?
Correct.
But if they find something, we have to go through SHPO?
Then it gets coordinated through
Okay, just
SHPO.
wanted to understand the process.
And that delays it even more.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
So, and obviously given our heritage in Blue Earth County and the river miles that we have, obviously there are lots of artifacts like that, and this is a newer requirement, both state and federal level, that we do additional archaeological investigations. So, trying to do our due diligence, but it does have real impacts to project schedules as well.
Does MnDOT have their own archaeologists in there?
They do,
Okay.
and that's who's doing it. Unfortunately, the investigation was delayed significantly from the initial schedule that was supposed to be done on. I'd leave it at that.
Thank you.
But our plan's at approximately 60%, and we're moving forward with that. So those are our 3 big projects for next year, 10, 27, and 41, as well as a fairly robust paving program, and then some additional funds for other bridge projects as maybe funding becomes available or as we choose to program them. The last item in your agenda is the NBIS Bridge Compliance Review for Blue Earth County. This is done by the Minnesota Department of Transportation State Aid Bridge Office. And as you can see, for Blue Earth County bridges, we received a 100% compliance ranking. So
Congratulations.
we're happy to see that. And we also received a 100% compliance ranking for the City of Mankato's bridges that we inspect on their behalf.
Oh, cool.
Congratulations.
Yeah. That's quite an accomplishment.
Yep, we're happy to have them off of our tail a little bit.
Yeah.
How often do you do that, Ryan?
So the review comes annually,
Annually,
and
okay.
they'll review online our data that we enter to make sure we're not missing coding and things like that. And then it's every 4 to 5 years they actually come and will inspect bridges that we inspected to make sure that we're inspecting it in accordance with how they would do so. The last item I have on the agenda is for your information is the updated severe weather acknowledgement for our campgrounds. We talked about this quite a while ago. This is the form that was developed. We will post this on the RT Vision OneGov campground reservation website, so they'll have to check and acknowledge that they've read this as a term of their online reservation. We will also post this at common areas, be it caretaker residences or bathhouses or picnic shelters around the campgrounds. And we will, in Rapidan, we'll have actual paper copies available for people to take. So
Great.
closing the loop on that, and that'll be in place for next year's camping season.
Perfect.
All right, that's all I've got. Are there any questions before I?
Thank you very much.
You did a good job at the
Awesome.
district meeting the other day.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Very good program, very good presentation.
Very,
Thanks for that.
Yes.
You knew as much as that other guy, I thought more.
I don't know, but it's been a worthwhile endeavor, all 3 meetings that I did. So I did the meeting in Casson, Marshall, and then obviously right here in Mankato, and I think they were all a great use of our time as far as
We've had some really good luck with the engineers across the state. I really appreciate the work that you folks do.
Thank you.
And helping educate county engineers, our county commissioners across the state, because that's really what it is. It's an education and trying to saying, okay, this is what's really happening. Take away all the rhetoric that you're hearing from one side or the other. This is what's really happening.
Right.
Yourself as a county engineer, the rest of the county engineers, they don't have a party to sit there and worry about. I mean, you have roads and bridges and to take care of, and we really appreciate the work that you folks do.
Good, thank you.
Well, and it helps everybody and commissioners on how the financing, explaining the state's role,
Yes.
the counties, CASA, everything.
And understanding those impacts, that
Yep.
not only does it have
That's
to our
where-
county stated highway fund, but that it has to MnDOT, to the cities, to the townships,
Yeah,
that
that really
anything
helps
that's
a lot.
dedicated to the highway user tax distribution fund is very significant for us. So it was a very good activity, and I appreciate all the interest that the commissioners in those 3 districts showed back. So it was,
I heard statements from AMC staff that our district had some of the most interesting questions and showed the most interest than most of the other districts across the state. There was a lot of people, and I think it's because of our district really has, I mean, when you listen to MnDOT, we have some of the worst roads in the state of Minnesota. Our District 7 is, through MnDOT is, and it's because of the climate, because we have a freezing and thawing and freezing and thawing. So we have, our roads really get beaten up really bad. And commissioners across the state or our area know that and understand that. And so they want to get it fixed. I think it's important.
Yep, this was the only district meeting of the 3 I covered where they had to stop you guys from asking questions. The other one, District 6 offered some good questions. I think District 6 was Casson. In Marshall, it was very quiet. I got more engagement after the fact when we broke out into the small groups at the tables, and then they were maybe a little more open to asking questions when it was more of an intimate setting, but all in all, very good, yep. But yeah, our district definitely shined, I think, as far as responsiveness.
And just to clarify, the worst roads that are state roads, we're not talking about Blue Earth County.
One thing I can say is part of it is also our soils, because obviously we have more clay soils, and you get up north to the metro line and north, primarily sandier soils that have a stronger resiliency modulus or subgrade strength. So you're not dealing with that mush in the spring that we deal with. So
Good.
very
Thank
good.
you, Ryan.
Have a great day, Ryan.
Thanks, Brian.
Okay, move on to the county attorney's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Just briefly, again, the report speaks for itself. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer any of those questions. A couple of things I would just draw to your attention that are not in the report is, we typically over the years ago, we used to get quite a bit of help, and I know I've addressed this before from the Attorney General's office with respect to appeals. For whatever reason, and that's declined over the years, but for whatever reason, in the last 5 weeks, we've had 9 appeals, which could easily take between one attorney from 20 to over 40 hours per appeal. So we're watching that closely and timing standpoint and whatnot, but that's just another area for you to be aware of. Then I just wanted to give you a brief little update on the Child and Family Advocacy Center. It's, I guess, the way that I look at it, it's unfortunate that we have to provide these services, but it's fortunate that we're able to provide the services in the fashion that we do. And just kind of a blip, I hope it's a blip on the radar, but in the last month we've had over a dozen interviews, which is, you know, you go back to 5 years ago, we would have had 38 reported cases, and that number has jumped up, which I think is a good and a bad thing. So, but it's just another way to provide some good services and whatnot for the kids. And then there was one other thing that I, for the life of me, can't think of what I was going to mention to you right now. But if there are any questions, concerns, comments, please let me know.
I have a question. The 9 appeals, are those, they're appealing the court decision or?
Yes.
Okay, just
Yes.
wanted to clarify that.
It could be we have a kind of a sentencing appeal, some suppressing issues. We have one that just came in yesterday, was an appeal from a termination of parental rights. So those, in that in particular, the termination of parental rights is something that can be rather time consuming. Yeah. And that was the area that I was going to mention, is just if you look at the numbers in the area of the child protection filings, those are up, you know, quite extensively from the last year, which are again time consuming cases. So, and even from the court's perspective, those are heavily weighted cases.
Good. Anything else for Pat?
I noticed our juvenile felony case filings, the person has really jumped.
Yeah.
It has, you know, with the exact numbers, it doesn't take much for that bar graph to jump up because of the number of felonies to begin with. But as an overall trend, we're seeing from, like, the national trend is that juvenile case filings are overall down, but the more serious person offenses are up. And part of this, Commissioner Sternberg, in my opinion, deals with the fact that it's not that we're out of whack with anybody else. It's just that, you know, we have a growing population, growing community, and as we grow, so do those numbers grow. And then if you get a couple of cases, which we've had in the last few months, that are kind of, that we don't see all the time, some ag robberies and whatnot, and, you know, you dealt with those when in your career. Those are the ones that can kind of skew things a little bit. Sure. But those numbers are up, and nationally overall, we still see that trend line.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, on the pie, I see forfeitures are the largest part of the pie. Yes. I was surprised at that. Maybe I shouldn't have been.
There are actually, you know, quite a few with respect to, I mean, from the overall numbers, and those can be time consuming, those can be relatively not time consuming, but compared to some of the environmental and property type issues, those are more time consuming. But just the sheer numbers, it's not that we would dedicate over half of a person's time specifically to forfeitures, but those numbers, given our caseload as it goes forward, has a tendency to ebb and flow as well.
Yeah, I was just surprised when I saw the pie chart.
Yeah, and then, you know, so with the city attorneys, city Mankato numbers, I think you'll see kind of the same thing. We kind of keep track of that, but yeah, those are a large number as well. Mm-hmm. Anything else, Mr. Chair, Commissioners?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pat.
Okay, move on to administrative services.
Well, Mr. Chair, the first item is the county board minutes for October 22nd.
Move approval?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Next would be the bills for the 2 weeks indicated.
I'll move the bills.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
First week is Froth Infrastructure and Environment for $60,000.
That's the management of the Ponderosa.
Okay. Got it down here. Second week, Warnicki Construction for $606,000.
That is part of the cell construction out at the landfill.
Okay. Getting a lot of landfill stuff going on here. Yeah. And then Egan Company for $141,000.
They are our low voltage contractor in the government center project,
Okay.
so that's a monthly billing.
And then Javins Mechanical for 367,000.
That's also the government center project. They're our heating and ventilation contractor.
And I believe that's all I have, Chair.
Okay, any other questions?
Just, what is low voltage?
The network lines,
Oh, okay.
basically.
Thanks.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
I don't.
Either.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Bills are approved.
All right.
Human resources.
Right, I'm trying to find it on the screen here. Item number 9 in your packet is the Human Resources Department agenda. Just have informational items for the board this morning. We filled 2 positions, one a licensed center specialist position, as well as a social worker in our mental health area. We also had a promotion of an assistant county attorney 1 to an assistant county attorney 2. And then we did receive a resignation of a legal assistant in our county attorney's office, and so we've initiated recruitment to refill that position. Be happy to answer any questions that the board might have on the human resources items.
Actually, it's probably more to Pat. What's the difference between 1 and 2?
From the attorney level. It's just more experience, you know, when the system was put in place, we had a tier 1 and a tier 2.
So it's just the
12
timing,
steps. It's just the timing. Everybody starts out primarily, given their level, starts out on tier 1. And
Sure.
then if they have the experience level and confidence level, they can apply pursuant to their contract to tier 2.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
Bob, did I cover that, or is there anything?
Yep. No, I think that's accurate.
I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Good. Okay.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, item number 10 in your packet then is a resolution authoring sponsorship of trails operated by the Blue Earth River Trail / Snowbirds of Amboy Incorporated. This is a request from the DNR. Previously, I've signed those agreements after the board has approved it. They've indicated they would like to have this resolution kind of granting me authorization to sign on behalf of the board for 5 years. We tried providing information about our procurement policy, indicating that authority had previously been delegated by the board, but the DNR requested this, so we're bringing it forward for your consideration today.
I'll move approval.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
how many years have we done this?
Oh, my goodness.
I remember doing it when I was on the board way back when.
Since I've been
so-
on the board.
Yeah,
Right.
so
Gotta be at
it's,
least 30 years.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
It's a
been a
long
really
time.
positive thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, they've done a nice job with it.
they have.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, then item number 11 in your packet is a memo requesting board authorization to put an insert into our truth and taxation notices. We're required to get board consent to put this insert in under Minnesota Statute 275.065 subdivision 3. This insert would basically just explain some of the legislative changes that were passed regarding agricultural homestead provisions that the legislature did approve in 2019. So requesting your support for that insert.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion?
What's the date for TNT?
December 3rd will be
December
the meeting here at 6 o'clock.
I just think it's, I remember when TNT started, you couldn't put an insert in. So I think this is really positive, because I think people need to know, and it is confusing, so it's good.
Whether they notice or not, you know, in other words.
Yeah,
As far
yeah.
as getting it, but
But originally, you couldn't even
Right.
explain anything.
it was kind of,
Yeah.
it wasn't right.
Yeah, so it's a good thing.
No. Good. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, item number 12 in your packet is the third quarter donations. You'll see that in terms of monetary donations, we had large gifts from the Friends of the Deep Valley Libraries for the summer reading program, as well as a very kind donation from the Mankato Clinic Foundation for our Child and Family Services area. We also then in the report share in-kind donations, and again for the summer reading program we had a donation of the airplane rides, and so that's the largest amount there, but also had many other in-kind donations. We also record our volunteer time given to the library, and so that's indicated on the third page. And so at this point we'd recommend the board accept these donations.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. Looks like we're done with administrative services.
That's correct.
Yeah. Move on to reports on committees. Colleen, would you like to start?
Sure. On the 23rd, I had a Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership meeting. We're not sure when. We think that the Minnesota Housing Finance Agency is going to make their decision as to what they're going to fund the end of November. We're hoping the Gateway project is one of those. It makes great good sense. It's got, you know, transit, it's got a children's museum, it's got a grocery store, it's got a high school, it's got a walkable grade school. We'll see what they decide. So stay tuned till the end of November to see when Minnesota Housing Finance Agency determines we're going to fund in the upcoming year. On the 24th, Mark and I were at the MAPO elected official, and Bob, we're at the MAPO elected officials meeting to talk about the 20-year plan.
Hoping for more.
I was
officials there.
disappointed there weren't many elected officials there. Jack Kolars was there from Nicollet County.
Whitlock, but yeah.
Jim Whitlock from the city of North Mankato. On the 29th, Minnesota Transportation Alliance, I'm on their legislative committee, and we talked about the various options that are out there for a transportation bill, trying to figure out, you know, how do you find consensus and how do you build capacity to have a lot of people all singing the same song, and that's important. We all know that, you know. On the 30th, Corrections had Melissa Huberty and Becky Bales-Cramlett from Stearns County come and do a training session on resilience. I was up there for a little while, and I wish I could have stayed the whole time because it just seemed really, really good. So I had mentioned to Josh that I think this would be something that other departments should look at. It's, you know, how do you deal with people and how do you work with people, and how do you work with people you work with when they're upset? And it just seemed like these two women from Stearns County just did a great job. Melissa's the Human Services Director, and Becky is the Corrections Director. So I just thought they were wonderful for the short time I was there. Then I went to the Greater Mankato Communities of Inclusion signing, so I got to sign for Blue Earth County. I think it was a really nice event, and I was surprised how many people were there. That's the flyer, because it was pretty short notice, and it was packed. So it was on second floor of the Civic Center. And then that night, Bukata, myself, Nancy Fitzsimmons, and Matt Loaza talked to a group at Mankato State about this mapping prejudice. That's going to be held on November 6th at MSU. I'd love to see all of you there. It's at 6:30. I've got the flyer. I'll send it around. It's at 6:30 at MSU in Ostrander Auditorium. The people from Minneapolis who did the mapping in Hennepin County are going to be down to talk about this, and then we're going to see what our next steps are. I don't think we're going to have the information back from the university yet. We sent them 500 deeds from each 10 years from 1910 to 1960, because I think that's when the covenants were there. They haven't gotten through them all yet, so we don't know what we're looking at for covenants, you know, the projections for covenants. So we'll see what happens, but I think it'll be a good night, and just to talk about this type of thing. And, you know, it's an educational tour, and we don't want to revisit the past and make the same mistakes again. So I think it'll be good. Instead of being with you all at the district meeting, which I heard was wonderful, Kip sang its praises to me on Sunday. I was with the Osher Learning Project. It's a program that the university has, and they interview somebody in this program, and I had John Hines from WCCO interviewing me. It was interesting, talking about being a county commissioner, what it's like to be a county commissioner, what the issues are, and so it was fascinating, and it was fun too, because there were some people in the group that I knew. Carolyn Shrewsbury, who used to be at MSU, was there. She's living in the cities now, so it was quite the experience. But I was really disappointed I had to miss the meeting. Sunday, Kip and I were at the 4-H Achievement Awards. I brought that little flyer too, if you want to check out who all got what. Yep. And then yesterday I was with Vance and Ryan at the Minnesota Transportation Alliance annual meeting and construction forecast. Trey Muse was on one of the panels, and he did a very, very nice job. Trey Muse, Blois Olson, who does a blog, and then a woman from the Fargo Forum talked about just transportation funding, and sometimes how do you get the story out, how do you tell the story, and how do you ensure that the information's correct. So kind of interesting. And then last night I went to the Blue Earth County Library because they were doing, Mike Stahlberger and Christy were doing a program on the upcoming elections. There were 3 of us there, Mike Stahlberger, Christy, and me. So I was disappointed that nobody else showed up, but I helped them break it down then. There's another one coming up on the 12th, so hopefully some people will come. And that's my report, sir.
Okay, yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and they advertised that quite a bit. I mean,
They
it's been on
did.
in the morning on the news, and
Yeah.
so it's just too bad they didn't get a better turnout, because I'm sure our staff would have had a great program for them.
I know they would have.
My report's relatively short because I was out of town for a few days, but after the last board meeting, we had our work session, which we had several things to discuss. Mark and I, and actually Bob, were at an RCEF meeting talking about the grant we have coming up and some other issues that we have going on there. We had a good meeting right on that, and we'll meet again in the next week or so here. The AMC program, as Colleen said, I was very impressed with the new format. I wasn't looking all that forward to going to the meeting that day, because it's just been kind of routine, but the way they broke it up and had Dave come in and give his presentation, they broke his presentation off, and they brought in the engineers, talked about that, and they tied it all together, and how you negotiate and try to build consensus with Dave there. I just thought was very interesting, and I love the fact that they put the reports at the end during lunch. I thought that worked out really well.
That was good.
I think that was made a lot of sense. I've always been a proponent of putting our reports at the end, because I think just that way you can get on with your meeting. You put the reports at the beginning, and it can throw your schedule off right out of the chute. So I was very impressed with the way the staff handled that, and very much enjoyed that format. And then, as Colleen already mentioned, I was at the 4-H Awards and got to see a whole bunch of kids get their awards, and they were all very excited, and they had a nice program. It was probably about an hour or so long, but the kids put the program on, and they take a lot of pride and energy to put it together, and it was good to see all them. So that brings me to today, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Vance?
All right, well, on the 23rd, I went to the annual Towards Zero Death Conference in St. Cloud. We had a deal to start with, celebrating the hands-free bill that was put into effect. And then I went to some concurrent sessions. There was a person that goes by the name of Tall Cop. He's a Jeremy Galloway, and he really talks about the drug culture and what kind of clothing and stuff that people wear that are using the drugs, and the hats and the different products that people are getting. So it's a teaching thing for law enforcement and for people that when they come up and stop a car and they see this kind of clothing, they have a pretty good idea that there's probably something else going on. We had the Governor Walz was there to hand out awards and talk about the new hands-free bill. And then on the 24th, there was a video on the death of a teenage boy from Dodge Center that died in a crash because of reckless driving and failure to put on his seatbelt. And the effects, his family was there and talked the effects about his family, the school and friends, and it was pretty, got right to your heart, stuff like that. We had another concurrent session. I went to one on mini roundabouts. And they showed about the roundabouts in St. James, and I think we've been through those when we went over there for our district meetings and stuff. And then there was one on e-charging, which is an interesting thing, the positive effects on DWI arrest and how it works. I'd have to, if I got into it, it takes a long time. Of course, the next day I came back and I had rotator cuff surgery. So I was kind of laid up for a little while. But I had a call on the 29th. You had the legislative, I had a call onto the executive board on the 29th for the Transportation Alliance. It's a good thing I had a call in. I couldn't have driven up there. We had our District 7 meeting that's been well talked about. I thought it went very well too, Kip. I appreciate your comments on that. For some of us, we've been through this is our third time around. Every time you learn something. Mm-hmm. Every time it's really good. And I'm sure that we will be talking about doing it not so much for transportation, but for different things, maybe human services, right. Maybe, doing other things. Transportation was big this year because we sent out the letter last year to try and have counties sign on, and it was the letter was very vanilla, where so it wasn't right or left. It was just and counties refused to sign it because they were afraid it would mean something, and so we had to get around that. We have to educate. We have to explain that, listen, counties are nonpartisan. We're just kind of trying to doing stuff for us, for the greater good. And then, of course, the Transportation Alliance meeting yesterday, and Colleen covered that very well. I appreciate that. And giving that award to Ryan was really, I was proud to be able to do that.
What a highlight.
It was a highlight, and he certainly deserved that award. But thank you very much. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Mark?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. After our work session, and we did have the brief RCF meeting, and then on the following day, with Clean, we had our listening session with the MAPOM, our Mankato Planning Organization, Area Planning Organization, and Bob was there, and that was good. But not as many could be there, but then did have on Thursday the Partners for Affordable Housing, our board meeting, and I forgot the date, and I left it. I have tickets for Battle of the Bowls, or we have a chili thing. It'll be our second year. It'll be at Snell Motors again. It's about mid-November, I believe. I can't remember when that. Anyway, so you won't get by without asking. And then we had the Maple, and I left that meeting a little bit early because then we did have the Maple Warren Street study session. You probably were there, but I came because of my other meeting. I got there a little bit later, but I seem to have a few people that showed up. Then we had our Maple Transportation, the planning meeting on the transportation plan, and that was on Tuesday, the 29th. And that went well. I was with that. And then Wednesday, October, was it 3rd? I did go to the Xcel Energy plan. They had at Civic Center, the reception hall, and they had the judge, like administrative judge, but she was there to oversee the response people had to the Xcel Energy's energy plan, what they're looking at in the future. And John Tumala was there, just as he stopped. In fact, we came in, walked in together. It was kind of fun, but that was, it had I was there to hear it, but there were people then from the community that would testify on the plan. So, and then they'll take that all into consideration and we'll see what they come up with. Through the kind of an independent group, and then they get with the recommendations to the PUC and stuff. So.
Was he the only PUC commissioner there?
Yes. Yeah. But I think probably every area maybe they had one of theirs there.
Yeah.
I mean, he was in the audience. He didn't have to. It wasn't. Yeah. Yeah. He didn't give any. But it was neat to have him there to hear what people had to say. Said. Yeah. So that was good. Let's see. Then Thursday, Halloween, I did. There was the trunk and treat at Snell Motors as a second year, and Partners for Affordable Housing. We're always promoting, so we did have a handout treats. Very frugal. We could only hand out one to each kid. So because there were businesses there that gave out candy, and then but we decorated, the trunk, the back end of a car. Well, they were mostly all SUVs they'd use, and it's pretty cool. And had some.
That's pretty neat.
It was a neat idea for Snell to have that, allow that, and
my grandkids went.
I was interested that day because I went through the car wash and they had already cleaned out. They took all their cars off the lot so people could be parking in there and stuff, and I was pretty impressed. I mean, that's a lot of work to do to move all those cars off the lot just for a special event like that. That's
if you worked there, you had to try to park in the back.
Sure.
And it almost got blocked in before it came out at the end. Yeah.
My grandkids went and they loved it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there were a lot of costumes, a lot of people there.
Yeah.
Well, we had about 115 kids at our place that night. So.
Wow.
I don't have a report on that, but
I can't find your house.
So that, Mr. Chair, concludes my report with Halloween, I guess.
Good. Well, thank you.
And of course, we did have our District 7 on Friday.
Of course.
Of course.
Most everything I did has already been mentioned, but of course the work session, and I did on the 31st. I stopped out at some folks out west of Lake Crystal that are working on being permitted for an event center on a farm. So it's kind of interesting to see what they're working on. So should be exciting. Of course, the district meeting we had, and then yesterday I was at Crystal Seasons for my monthly briefing, and had the opportunity to run into somebody that I hadn't seen for 30 years. So,
That's pretty neat.
It was neat to do that. So, and that's my report. Is there anything else?
That's all there is today.
Have a motion to recess?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are recessed. Thank you.